Hello, I'm Travis Klein, Assistant Director for Career Services here at Northwest Missouri State University. And today I'm chatting with a couple of Northwest transfer students to talk about their experiences transferring into Northwest, advice they might have for students, and just allowing them to kind of share their wisdom. So, as we get started here, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, maybe your name, your year in school, freshman, sophomore, that kind of thing, and then maybe where you transferred from. So, Cole, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm Cole Henderson. I'm a junior here now, and I transferred from North Central Missouri College.
Well, I'm Gavin Fitzwater. I'm senior here for computer science at Northwest. I transferred from Maple Woods Metropolitan Kansas City with a associate's degree already. So I got my associate's and then transferred here
Okay,
to my
excellent.
bachelor's.
Yes, very good. So that kind of leads right into my second question here is, what made you want to transfer to Northwest? Was it a specific program? Was this a specific degree? What was it that made you want to continue on here at Northwest in Maryville?
NCMC was a community college, so I knew I was going to have to transfer somewhere eventually. And my major is secondary history ed, and Northwest has a very good education program. And both of my parents are teachers, and they went here. And so for me, it was the obvious choice of where I would go after I would need to transfer.
I had actually originally planned to come here my freshman year, and then just life happened, and I ended up going to community college. But my family came here. It's a lot of people from my small town came here. Um, it's like I like the mix of it being like an like kind of an agricultural college, but also I found out that it had a really good computer science program, which surprised me, but has worked perfectly, like bringing both together.
Excellent. So thinking about that, one of the things I hear a lot when I work with transfer students is, especially prospective transfer students who are maybe coming from community college, they're concerned about starting over in a new place, trying to get involved, trying to meet people. So, can you kind of talk about what that process was like, as you both came in from your previous schools, how did you get involved? How did you meet people? Kind of how did you insert yourself into the Northwest kind of culture?
Yeah, so I had that same fear coming here. At NCMC, I was student senate president. I was an RA. I had multiple on campus. Like I was very involved, and so I was kind of worried about getting involved here while being an older student. But the easiest way for me was through Meet the Greeks. I'm in the process of joining a fraternity. Um, and through that I've gotten to meet a lot of really cool guys, have gotten to um, go to some social events with other sorority groups and gotten to meet them. So that's been the easiest way for me to meet new people and still stay involved. And then I still have an on-campus job also, so getting to see students and athletes and things like that also helps.
So I transferred on from like completely online college for 3 years to this. So there was a big fear of like how am I going to get back into like talking to people and going to actual lectures and class, and that was a big fear. But I was lucky enough to move into the dorms and with my RA and just there's a lot of events going on all the time, so that really got me out and going. And there's a huge church community, like just various churches that are always doing events. So that's been a very inviting community that I've been lucky to have. Um, but yeah, church events has been a big thing for me, just getting out there. Then like the grocery bingo, like the amount of people I just randomly meet on campus and talk to in those first couple weeks was huge for me, which was super fearful, but turned out good.
So, Cole, you talked about working on campus. So, can you talk about kind of that process of finding a job on campus and then what you're doing as a student employee now?
Yeah, so my old boss back at NCMC, he knows Dr. Peterson, the athletic director here, and so he sent Dr. Peterson an email and was like, he's going to be a great worker for you. And so then I just had to reach out, and then I got in contact with Mr. McDonough through there, and so now I do live stats for home sporting events. So for football games, I'll be up in the press box. Sometimes I'm on the computer actually inputting plays. Sometimes I'm just seeing if player 54 came into the game, and keeping track of came into the game. I'm also doing women's soccer this semester, so I've gotten to run the scoreboard for that. I've helped with substitutions, just kind of anything to do with live stats is what my job is.
That's a really cool campus job. And
Yeah.
using your network, I think that's really good advice for any student, but especially for one, coming in from another institution is more than likely somebody from that other school knows somebody here. So have
Yep.
those conversations, as you're making your plan to come in, and then you get those really cool opportunities from that. So that's really awesome. So Gavin, you talked about living in the residence halls. So talk to me about that. Of course, as a transfer student, you're not required to live in the halls. You can, have an apartment or off-campus housing. Um, was it a conscious choice to live in the halls? You mentioned that it's been helpful,
So
but
I have one friend up here, and he was a I have a lot of I have a few that are blue collar workers,
Mhm.
and I wasn't sure I was gonna get the full college experience or like be able to be as involved and like I feel like I was gonna be removed from campus if I was off campus. So I was like, okay, I'll get a single room to myself in South, and I did, and it was a little bit hard to like meet people that first week, just being a junior coming into a freshman dorm,
Mhm.
but pretty quick. There was events, and everyone's very inviting. Like all the RAs are always very nice about like, oh yeah, hey, come to my rhythm or come to my thing. And eventually, I even became an RA. So that's what I'm doing this year, and it's a good process to like learn things, but also get out there and meet people and kind of build connections.
Can you kind of talk about that RA experience? Maybe, what you do as an RA. I think that's one of those things a lot of us kind of are aware of because of movies and stuff like that, but you really don't know what the job is. So like as an RA, what are you actually doing and what kind of benefits
Yeah.
do you get for that?
And I never knew RAs existed. I was pretty oblivious of all college things, but I had a pretty cool RA last year that really helped me like meet people and get around. So basically, you just kind of you have a little bit of actual work, like where you're walking the building once or twice a week. You're at desk and you're just and it's not hard work. A lot of it's just community building, just to really make sure the residents feel safe and included and that people are friendly to them. There's a little bit of discipline to it where you have to like, hey, someone's being loud, but like almost never that's the case. It's usually like, hey, I just talked to a resident for 2 hours at desk and I got paid for it. So it's been a fun thing, and it's really just a community builder. It's a good thing to put on the resume too. It's just a lot of connection building.
And how did you get that RA position? Was that former RA tell you about, that was going
She
to be
did.
open?
My former RA was like, hey, you should try this. It's a good scholarship thing, and I think you'd really enjoy it. So I went out and tried for it, had a couple days of interviews, and they're like, "You seem like you're social and you are gonna build that community well." And well, I'm here.
Excellent. So that kind of leads into my next question too. Coming in as a transfer student, you've both been here for a little bit. What's something that you know now that you wish you would have known at the start of this process, or maybe even before that when you were very first considering? Is there? I'm sure you're way more knowledgeable about how all this works now. What's something you wish you could tell yourself then that yourself now knows?
Yeah, I was my family had really never went to college that much. So like my mom was like a year or two of college, my dad was none. So coming in and not knowing like what how classes work and like how they transferred and just I spent countless hours my last college trying to figure that out and like how stuff gonna transfer over, which classes actually are gonna transfer, what degree do I want, and like what does my degree do? Even like colleges put out there like, oh, you get this degree. Well, what can I do with that degree? So that was a big thing I was having to look up, and I found that like asking counselors on both sides, the old college and the new college, it's an important thing to do. Just email people as much as you can. Um, but really researching because there's been a few times where I've had a class and it wouldn't transfer over. But luckily Northwest has been really good about that. But at times it's quite scary. It's a lot of money and time to not be useful, but communication with the counselors is a big thing.
Yeah, so for me, I'd probably go back and tell myself to just stop stressing. Um, as somebody who deals with anxiety sometimes, um, I was pretty stressed out about, making new friends, just getting to know people, feeling like I was gonna belong on campus, things like that. And, the first 2 weeks it wasn't bad, but, everybody's trying to get into a routine. Um, but once I got into a routine and I started meeting new people, it's like week 7 or 8 now, and it feels like it was August yesterday. Um, so that would probably be my biggest piece of advice is just find a routine and stick with it, and the rest of the chips will fall where they fall.
I think that's solid advice for all levels of students, whether they're freshmen or transfer or graduate students. Like, don't stress and just kind of let things happen. I think that's good life advice overall for sure. So, okay, so thinking about, if somebody out there is considering, doing the community college route first and then transferring to a 4 year, things like that, what advice would you have? Like you've been through this process, you guys have both successfully navigated it. Anything, other than don't stress, which I think is a universal, that's a panacea answer. But other than that, what advice would you share with those potential maybe incoming students or even new ones who are, maybe, watching this in the future? It's 2 days into class and they're in that rough period. What advice would you give them?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. At NCMC, I was an RA there for 2 years, and so I felt like any question I would ever potentially have or anybody else would have, like I would know exactly where to go to. And then coming here, it was like a needle in a haystack, is what I felt like. Um, and so the biggest thing I learned was just, don't be afraid to stay after class for 2 minutes and wait for your classmates to get out and ask your instructor a question about, hey, I need to do this, where should I go? Or even if it is a question about the class, is just don't be afraid to ask questions because no question is stupid.
I very much agree with that. Asking questions is like the biggest thing ever. Um, I think the biggest thing would be asking questions and like getting that info, but also like when you go to your teacher, your counselor, really set up a plan. I think that was a big thing. I went into college without having a plan. It was just kind of, oh, I feel like this, I feel like this, and I didn't really have any idea what I was doing. I went through like 3 degrees at my associate's school. So I think just having a plan, setting that plan, and like slowly going through those goals, not just kind of wandering around your degree, is an important thing. And just know like your people change. Like I think almost everyone changes their degree. My friend changed her degree 3 times this summer. So I think it's an important thing to know that your mind's gonna change. So hopefully set yourself up at good at community college to transfer here. They do a really good thing with your associate's degree where if you have your associate's degree, you get to skip a large portion of the credits in the first. It's like the Bearcat Advantage or something like that, where you get to skip all the gen ed classes if you have your associates. So I think that's a really important thing people should use. So then by the time you finish your associates, you have an idea of what you would like to study, and you're not far behind at all, or really behind in any way.
And you get to jump into those major classes, which are hopefully something you're interested in as well. So, as a
Yeah,
computer
yeah,
science student, hopefully you enjoy those classes, and you get to jump right in. Same thing with those education classes.
yeah.
Hopefully coming right in.
I took maybe 1 or 2 computer science classes, but I was originally a radiology major,
Hmm.
so wasn't very many computer classes coming into Northwest. But here I only have computer classes. There's not a single gen ed.
Excellent. You both have mentioned, talking to counselors and resources, things like that. Can you kind of talk through maybe as a transfer student, some of those resources, maybe some of the people who you've kind of worked with?
My academic advisor at NCMC, and then also my academic advisor here. She was really the only one that I had any contact with from Northwest, but being able to talk to my advisor at NCMC, see what classes I am taking that semester, and then have taken to be able to then go to my um, class sign up meeting with my new academic advisor at Northwest. It allowed her to do her job easier because I wasn't having to think about what classes I've taken. Um, and then she's also, able to help me and see that, like, okay, I need a health science class, but I've got all my other gen eds covered. Um, so definitely both of my academic advisors.
So my old college, it was very much like you come in, you talk to a random advisor, and they kind of give you some details, but you kind of have to re-explain your situation every time. So it ended up more being on you to figure out what you wanted. But coming here, my first visit at Northwest, I got to actually talk to the dean of computer science, Miss Adkins or Dr. Adkins. And that was super helpful. She's totally like she put in my mind of like, okay, what do you want? Like she asked me the real questions like, what do you want to do with your degree? What classes you think you'd like to take? Like she very much made it personalized and understood fully. And then as I've stayed here, Dr. Ratan Law is my like you get a counselor and he stays with you. So that's been very nice to have someone who already knows my situation, and every time I come back, they are already informed in what I'm doing, and it's been very easy and much easier here than anywhere else.
That's always good to hear. So excellent. So, all right. Well, I mean, I think kind of maybe final thoughts here, maybe other words of wisdom to share with students, whether they're freshmen, transfer, continuing. Again, you guys are two successful students who are, doing the stuff you need to do. And, what other kinds of advice would you share maybe with students who are out there and maybe are struggling or maybe, trying to figure things out?
I would say just show up to class. I mean, the worst thing you can do is skip. And then don't be afraid to go up and talk to random people. You never know when they'll be your best friend. That's happened to me. Somebody came up and just randomly started talking to me, and now we're like the best of friends. So don't be afraid to talk to new people, and then just go to class.
Solid advice. Yes, absolutely. Can 100% back that up. Yes. So
I would agree. The just talking to people in class really. I mean, I've met a lot of friends I would not even imagine I would meet. Coming from a small town, there's not a lot of diversity, but when I go to computer science classes, there's a lot of people from around the world, and that's been a very eye-opening and just interesting experience. And also, just getting involved on campus makes it so much easier to like use the resources on campus. So like just going to random events, making friends allows you to just be a better student overall. I feel like it's really helped me get out of my slums, and homework's important, but like if you're only doing homework, it's hard to be a college student.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there and taking advantage of it, I think is the one thing I wish I would have done more when I was a student here and now as a staff member. It's like we do all these things, you just have to show up. So thank you. We appreciate that you do that. So thank you guys both. Appreciate your time today. I think there's some really good information in there for students who are trying to navigate this whole process of, making the switch from a community college to a four-year college or coming into Northwest. So again, really appreciate your time. And of course, if you have any questions and you would like to share, you're always welcome to reach out to the Career Services Office. We are available at career@nwmissouri.edu. And then we do have an office dedicated to transfer as well. That's transfer@nwmissouri.edu, where you can send those questions as well. So thank you for joining us today and have a great afternoon.